tuning in. This is OPTIBOTIMUS coming at you with another video review. And today we're going to be taking a look at the new Transformers 4 Age of Extinction Voyager class Autobot Drift. And as you can see through the package, basically what you have is a repaint and slight retool of Skyhammer, which a figure that we got some time ago. As many of you know, in the Transformers 4 Age of Extinction movie, Drift was the very first triple changer. He was both a car and a helicopter. So it's really cool to see that Hasbro actually gave us a helicopter. And I'll get into some actual background stories that you may not know here just in a little bit. But for the packaging, you got the nice logo, you got his CGI render right there, you got Transformers here along the side. Come around here to the back, you got his vehicle or his robot mode as well as his vehicle mode, and then also available you see Dinobot Slog. Up here at the top, it says Drift is a bot of few words and many blades. He's not trying to hide his Decepticon past. At this point, he'd much rather just let his swords do the talking. His mastery of combat tactics not only lets him adapt his alternate form to land or air-based battles, but maintain control over his circuits, even under heavy enemy fire. While other bots are pushed towards overload, Drift soldiers on with steely tactical precision. Again, they're doing the whole he was a Decepticon thing, and I didn't even get that in the movie. There's no point in time in the movie at all that I really got that impression, so I think they're just pulling from some original source material on the Drift character prior to the movie, but movie-wise, I never got that impression at all. You can see that he is part of the Generation line, so he's more designed for the collectors out there. You got the authentic Transformer logo down there, but beyond that, that's about it for the packaging. So without further ado, let's get him open and see how cool he actually is. Alright guys, so here we have Voyager class Drift open up and out of his packaging. And as you can see, much like I said in the beginning, this is basically just a repaint of that really cool figure, the Skyhammer that we got. I don't remember. I want to say that it was Hunt for the Decepticons with the Dark of the Moon line, but I mean, that was a great figure and I absolutely loved it. Now, a lot of people will be like, well, why did Hasbro do this? Why didn't they just give us a triple changer? And from what I've heard, an actual Hasbro execs have talked about this. The reason why they didn't do that was because they didn't find out until the very end that Drift was going to be a triple changer. They just thought he was going to be that Bugatti. So when they did find out, they were like, well, what do we do now for a helicopter? Well, they knew that they had this really cool Skyhammer mold, and basically in the last bits, they threw this together for us, and I really am very happy with it. It's one of those things where I now don't have any idea whether or not I want to display this as my Drift figure, or if I want to use that car version, because I really have always loved this mold, and as Drift, it looks pretty good. Now, these little bits right here, the instructions don't show you to put these on here. I just figured out a bit of a storage place for these. So in terms of new bits, these are brand new. We'll touch on these here in a little bit. And then he also has a new head, but everything else is essentially the same. The color is just a little bit different. If you remember, Skyhammer had more of a gray color. His cockpit, I believe it was yellow, whereas this is a more bluish translucent color. Basically, you're just seeing more Drift colors here. Now, again, it's not the same kind of helicopter. The helicopter that he was in the movie had a little propeller thing here on the actual back, which is really cool. You can maybe sort of recreate something like that by putting it in this configuration. It's personal preference, I guess, but I mean, it just differentiates it a little bit. And obviously in robot mode, he did not look like this. So one thing that the new movies really have done was, especially with Drift, they basically took two different alt modes plus his robot mode, put it into a CGI, and it looked very smooth and didn't have a lot of excess parts or anything. That's one thing that I really did not like about the movies. It made them a little bit more humanoid looking and less like alien robots. And personally, I believe that was just a decision that they did to kind of make some fans happy, because that was one thing that a lot of people complained about, that they looked too alien, that they didn't look too humanoid, and I never did understand that argument, because they're aliens. If they're gonna transform into something, they should have parts hanging off of them, but Drift really didn't have that, and he had to conceal helicopter parts as well as actual car parts. So the CGI did a great job of it, but when you have to make a toy, that makes it really very hard. And that's why figures like Galvatron, I think, actually worked out pretty good, considering, well, number one, the way that they had him transform, and a character like Drift, who you really had no parts to work with as an actual toy. So the fact that we're getting a helicopter mode for him really does impress me. This is the same mold, so nothing really changes from my opinion of Skyhammer. I really do like it. I love the propellers. I mean, it's free flowing. You just spin it. Very cool. You can get that going very nicely, like you could see here. You got these little bits right here that are actually designed to peg these, that I just put these on here. You can kind of wedge them in there. They sort of fit, but there's no real other place that you can have weapon storage for those little bits, and I don't think that looks all that bad. I mean, again, not very movie accurate, but it's decent. I could see it, I guess. Now, for a comparison, I don't have Skyhammer, but here is my Deluxe class Drift. As you can see that the colors are pretty much the same. He's got the light blue that kind of goes back and forth. This one has a little bit more of a metallic light blue, which I kind of like a little bit more. This is not that all-spark blue, but it doesn't have that same metallic, that kind of sheen that this one has. I really do like it. One thing that would have been really neat is if somewhere on here they like painted a little Bugatti symbol, just like a little red dot. Just put it somewhere to kind of throw back to, yeah, he's also a car, which I think that would have been a neat little touch. I don't know where they could have put it, but it would have been neat. But you see that the blue is a very similar blue color. Actually, this looks, at least to my eye, this looks a little bit darker than this. So the bluish color doesn't necessarily match. It's very, very close, but it's off a hair, not a ton, but it's noticeable, I think. He doesn't really have a lot of gold here in his car mode. There's more gold that comes through here. I mean, obviously the face did have it, but he does have a lot more gold here on the helicopter version. But like I said, I really have no idea what I'm going to use for my display. I honestly might just take and leave this guy in his vehicle mode and have this guy be in his robot mode, because I kind of think it looks a little bit better. This one obviously has a little bit more of a movie look, where this one doesn't, but I kind of am digging that. So vehicle mode, though, that's what you're basically looking at. Now, because we have transformed this one time before, I'm not going to go through that, but if you do need help transforming them, I'm going to put the link down in the video description to my original review of that Skyhammer figure, and you can get the actual transformation instructions. So using a little bit of movie magic, we're going to transform Drift from looking like this to looking like this. And again, he doesn't really look like how he looked in the movie. Plus, he's a lot bigger than how he was in the movie. I mean, he wasn't really this large of a character. I mean, this is a Voyager figure, so he's going to make him a lot bigger looking. So scale-wise, I wouldn't say that he scales all that great. And honestly, the more that I play with this, I might not use this in my actual display. Maybe as a helicopter, but in terms of robot mode, I just really think that the Deluxe one has that much better of a look for him. And he, of course, scales better. But you can see just how big this is. Now, I was slightly mistaken. There are some newly molded pieces on here besides just the head. His intakes up here, they actually protrude. I went back and I watched my review of Skyhammer himself, and I've been like, oh, well, that's actually kind of different. The other thing that I noticed is that his hands are different. Whereas Skyhammer had more relaxed hands that were kind of like this, he's got a rounded, more closed grip, which honestly is kind of weird when you take into consideration his weapon. As you can see, it can't actually connect together. It's not a very secure connection. These little bits right here really don't do anything. All the connectivity comes down here with this peg. But it creates this really weird large sword that has this funky handle that to actually have them hold it, you have to take this and let me put it in here, because you see it's curved like this. You have to put it in on an angle and then push it in, and it's weird to do that, but I really think, and you can see that it's even actually giving a bit of a stress mark right there. I don't know if you can actually see that. So I'm not, and yeah, I mean, even on here, there's a stress mark from putting the swords in his hands. You can absolutely see that right up in there. That's kind of unfortunate, to be honest with you, but you really are forcing this in there. So you just take this, you put it in, and then you wedge it in there, and it really does put some pressure on that, and you can see it. and that's not a good design choice. I don't think and it's happening on both sides, so it's not just one or the other. I do really like these swords. They are a lot nicer than what we got before. They're a lot bigger. These are the deluxe figures, little sword, or bigger swords, I should say. As you can see, there's not much really very similar, other than I mean, they kind of come up at the edge, and that's about it. But I mean, honestly, for the most part, I mean, as much as I love the way that this looks, it just deviates too much. And I know that sounds completely contradictory how the beginning part of the video started out, but I mean, if I'm gonna have a Drift character that's representative of how he looked in the movie, I gotta go with this. It's just it just looks better. And then this popped out. I think this mold really works very nicely for Drift. It has a very heroic look to him, and that's one thing that I absolutely thought about that Skyhammer figure. I mean, he looked, I remember saying that he looked like a Prime. And this guy looks great, and I do love the way his head looks. Zooming in and get a good look at that, I mean, you can see he's got a really very gorgeous head sculpt. I mean, far better than what we got here. I mean, it's a decent head sculpt on the original one, but you can see that this just has much more detail put into it, and it's a much nicer look. You got some nice paint applications on the side here, too, just really bringing out how the actual character looked in the movie. I mean, toy-wise, it is a great figure, but I just got to go back to the whole thing that I believe that the best look for this character is what he looked like in the film itself, and this doesn't have that same look. All the articulation is the exact same. The head here is on a bit of a ball joint. You can get a left, right, well, maybe it's just a swivel. It's hard to actually see. It rotates left and right, moves up and down. The shoulders rotate all the way around. They move in and out here at this joint, so there's two different joints. Rotates at the bicep, bends here at the elbow. The wrists, they just move in and out as part of the transformation. Rotates at the waist itself. The hips are on some actual swivel joints. They move forward, they move back, they bend here at the knee, they rotate at the bottom part of the knee, I guess, as just part of the transformation. The feet kind of pivot, but you're not going to get a lot of poses with it or anything, because his feet are kind of funky in terms of the way that they're designed. You really do have to make sure that these stay locked in, otherwise this will become very loose and won't support him on the back end. But it is a great looking figure. I really do dig him. It comes down to what I want for my display, and unfortunately this guy just is losing it. He's losing the points that he initially got from me. As much as I really do like him, putting him in with my Age of Extinction figures just feels out of place. So maybe instead of having, like I was going to say before, have him in his vehicle mode, have him in his actual robot mode, I might actually reverse that. Keep this guy in his actual robot mode, put that in his helicopter mode, and maybe that's how I'll turn out or end up displaying something like that. But I do really like the guy. I think he's really cool. The color on here isn't necessarily the exact same that we got with the deluxe one, but still looks really very nice. The head sculpt is absolutely fantastic. I wonder if I could actually swap those heads. It's no, that one's a little bit bigger, so I don't think that would fit very well. But really, I mean, it's going to come down to personal preference, what you want to have in your display. It's still a great toy, and I think it's well worth picking up and having in your collection. If anything, just to kind of check it out and revisit the mold, because the mold is really very fun. But beyond that, that's about it, guys. So, as always, if you are interested in picking this guy up, all you have to do is click on the link down in the video description. You'll go to Big Bad Toy Store, where you can add this guy to your collection today. But beyond that, guys, that's about it. So once again, I want to thank you for tuning in. This has been OPTIBOTIMUS. Don't forget that you can keep in touch with me by liking my Facebook page at facebook.com/TeamBotimus, and by following me over on Twitter at twitter.com/OPTIBOTIMUS. Also, I'd encourage you to check out my new website at OPTIBOTIMUSreviews.com, where you can see all my videos from the previous week, see what I have coming up for future release, and also get your very own OPTIBOTIMUS t-shirt. And finally, I'd also really appreciate it, guys, that if you like this review, don't forget to please like, comment, and share this video. Just when you're commenting, don't say first. And until next time, I'll talk to you later.